First, I'd like to say this is an honor to do this. As Rich has told you, I contributed to Seven Stars back in the 70s, and Rich published my collection of my work in 1977. And we had kind of lost track of each other over the last 40 years. And anyway, he tracked me down about 6 weeks ago, and since that time, I've joined this group, and I'm really enjoying it. And there's a lot of talented stuff I've been listening to. I've been in on these readings, and I've kind of scanned a few copies of Cholla Needles, and really enjoy a lot of talented people here. So I'm honored to be part of this. I'm going to read from Sit Down, Have a Beer. And these poems were all written between 1973 and 1976. So this is a sort of a look inside the head of somebody in his 20s, the things that were going on inside my head and back at that time. So first thing I think we need to do here, and I've made a point of doing this, is I'm going to open a beer here, and I hope everyone else has one too.
I should have known.
Well, I had after Sit Down, a Beer came out in 1977, I read a review, some literary mag in Pennsylvania. The guy wrote a review and said that I wasn't dealing with the big things in life and in the issues of the world. He said I was swatting at the mosquitoes that were buzzing around my head. So I'm going to kind of show you some of the mosquitoes that were buzzing around my head back in the mid 70s. Let's open with the title poem, Sit Down, Have a Beer. Sit down, have a beer. The world has lost its mind anyway. Don't give it a second thought. Pour down the Novocaine. Buy your buddy one too. He hasn't got any better than you. Get plastered out of your mind. And when the place closes for the night, make sure you're out cold. Make them drag you out. It's the least they can do for you. All right. The next one I'm going to read, this was the very first poem that I ever had published. It was published by a magazine called Images. It was called The Night of the Black Lung. And in fact, the cover of my book was actually taken about the time I was writing it. So I was coming down from a long evening. I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but anyway, it's called The Night of the Black Lung. It was the night of the black lung. Shakespearean comics sat at mustard-stained tables, while magic chessboards wiggled through the streets. Carnivals came to life in the form of paper mannequins, and four-dimensional spirits were afraid to go out in the world because it was raining. Double nits pranced by with their hairspray revolution. In the solitude and madness, a virgin deer trembled while the armies of deranged sneered. The candle burned, while outside lunatics with push buttons played almighty, never consulting, only deciding. The world was a holocaust, but inside, crumpled cigarettes floated methodically, and outside it was still raining. Energy raged with nowhere to go. The night of the black lung was upon us. That was the very first piece I ever got published. Images also published another one of these, well, I'm going to read it to you. I'm still trying to understand it myself after all these years. It's called Dream. Outside, the rain has begun to fall. Darkness fills the study and the hall. As I pick up my hat and waving everybody a good night, start disappearing into the foliage, never noticing the heavy footsteps breathing erotically in the autumn forest. Go breathe on someone else's neck, I proclaim as I march forth, dreaming of gentle ice cream mountains where life is a beggar's paradise, lost forever in the pits of love-stained heartaches, like butter dripping through the floorboards on the bald heads of cigar-smoking eunuchs, who completely undisturbed keep polishing their toenails for Saturday's parade. And as always, Mama is watching through blue-stained windows, invisible to their subjective eyes. The sun vanishes and everywhere is silence, and yesterday becomes a cave concealing treasures mounted on tombs of unknown soldiers.